And here we go. We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be normal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger with Planet.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Echo down to nominal.
Fighting downside SPD off. Bring in SPD off. Off. It's orange!
45! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage. Put that in the big bag, Jingle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
If the methane would be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. Keep red. We don't need any more of these.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to yet another very exciting mission. Today, we may not be attempting to catch a booster, but this is perhaps NASA's biggest planetary science mission ever, that we are just under 90 minutes away from launching. I see all the 5x5s in chat. Thank you very much for that. I will be hosting today's stream. I am Trevor Sesnick, a writer here at NSF. Thankfully, though, I am not alone. Joining me today is Mr. Alejandro. Alex, how are you doing this morning?
I'm still in awe by what happened yesterday, but the awe will still be going on today because I cannot believe that we are finally live for the launch of Europa Clipper. So many years in the making, and this is such a huge mission for everybody involved. It's just amazing. I cannot wait until we get all of the data from this. We'll have to wait a little bit. We'll get to that in a moment, but it'll be very rewarding.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the missions where the long-term gain just seems, we're going to learn so many things of questions we haven't even thought to ask yet, but we'll get more to that in a second because I want to introduce Sawyer, who is in the field for today's mission. Sawyer, how are you doing?
I'm doing great today. I mean, yesterday was absolutely spectacular to see that booster come down and land, but to finally see this mission take off, as Alex was saying, that's been years in the making. The science that we expect from this could shape our understanding of the universe. So I'm very, very excited to be here and excited to see the launch.
Yeah, that we all are. Also out in the field is Julia, and then producing today's stream is Mr. Kevin Michael Reed. So make sure you thank them as well for views and production as the stream goes on. But with this, Alex, can you give us a rundown of today's mission, what the payload is, and then, unfortunately, why those boosters won't be being recovered?
Boy, I'm gonna go the short version. We'll then talk about the little details of Europa Clipper. Essentially, in very short terms, this is a multi-billion-dollar probe. Essentially that NASA put together. It is going to Europa, one of the largest moons of Jupiter. It's one of the 4 Galilean moons that's essentially because Galileo discovered them as he was looking through the telescope and everything back then. And the big deal with this mission is that Europa Clipper has is an amazing array of instruments on board that is gonna go look for a lot of different markers of what is going on with Europa. It has subsurface, ocean, and there's a lot of dynamics there, including potentially, we don't know, perhaps, habitability signs, right? Whether actually life could live down there if the conditions are well enough. The problem is, Europa Clipper, since it has so many instruments and it's going such far away, it's actually a big spacecraft. It's about 6 tons at launch in mass. It is with these like massive solar panels that it has. Once they are deployed, it is about the size of the Statue of Liberty. It is a gigantic spacecraft, and so that's why they need Falcon Heavy, because it is about the size of a a big geostationary communications satellite, but Falcon Heavy will not be launching that to a geostationary transfer orbit. It is launching it all the way to interplanetary space, and we'll talk about that trajectory, that sort of journey of Europa Clipper out to the Jovian moons later down the line. But essentially, we need all of the power from Falcon Heavy, and that's why all of the 3 cores on this rocket will be expended. Both the side boosters and the center core will go to the drink. There will be no recovery. However, there will be a part of this rocket that will be recovered, and that is the fairing halves will be recovered by Go Cosmos, and it's gonna be recovered at a record distance because of course this rocket needs to be pushed to the limit, and so the splashdown location of those fairing halves will be 2,070 kilometers downrange, the farthest distance for any fairing half from Falcon. So that's going to be really far down the line. And as an extra note, as you can see there, this will be SpaceX's 400th launch overall. So we'll probably get to the details of why is it the 400th as well. But as you can see, this is a really big deal of a mission. We're going to have an exciting launch, hopefully in 1 hour and 22 minutes. Going to see that Falcon Heavy push to the limits.
Yeah, that's certainly true. And that 400 number is, Alex and I agree on it, but depending on how you slightly count
Yeah.
SpaceX launches, you could easily disagree with it. But if you have any questions about today's mission, make sure you tag us in chat with that at NASA Spaceflight, and we will try our best to answer it. And we're going to try to take questions more about Falcon and this mission. I know everyone wants to talk about the awesome catch that we saw yesterday, but we really do want to focus on the really, really exciting science that's going on this mission. Sawyer, Alex had mentioned that this has a bunch of cool instruments on board. Can you just kind of walk us through some of the main ones and just some of the other cool things about the spacecraft?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this has 9 different science instruments on board. Their main things are basically see what is underneath that ice shell and the expected ocean under there. What is it? How thick is that shell? What is the ocean made up of? The ice shelf, all of that, the atmosphere, and take a look at some of the geology on it. I mean, they have 2 different kinds of cameras, visual and thermal. They have 2 different instruments for spectrometry, basically looking at potentially what is inside there atom wise, what are the different elements that are coming out of it, and could there be the building blocks for the potential for life in there? I think it's worth noting this is not a life finding mission, but it is a mission to find hints of what life might use to survive out there. So finding those building blocks of life. There's also checking the magnetic field and the plasma. There's a radar for Europa assessment and sounding ocean to near surface, aka reason. So I just wanted a reason to make that pun. And then
Oh my gosh.
a mass spectrometer checking out all of the gases in the very, very thin atmosphere that it has. And it's also worth noting that this isn't the only science that's going to be out there at Jupiter by the time this gets there. We've got JUICE that already launched. That's the European mission. That is the Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer. It's mainly focused on Ganymede, but when it gets there in 2031, it's also going to do a couple of flybys of Europa and Callisto.
And
Yes.
from that mission, sorry,
No,
I
go
was
ahead,
going to
Alex.
say as well here, it's also very important that mission as well because it's not just about Europa. Part of the dynamics of what is going on in Europa can also be seen on other moons as well. And also, there's like this gravitational interaction between like the resonance of all of these moons and everything. So studying all of the other moons is equally as important, right? Especially Ganymede. Oh boy, I cannot even pronounce that anymore. Um, so JUICE is going to that other moon, and so that moon is actually the largest, I think, on the solar system, which is quite impressive. If it were just orbiting the sun on its own, it would be a planet essentially. It would be its own planet. So it's very important to understand the dynamics of these bodies, not just because hey, we're gonna find life or something like that, right? It's just because it's cool to know about all of this stuff to be able to understand how everything evolved, right? Like that's one of the side quests, so to speak, right? Of trying to do a bunch of this stuff. The more you learn, the more things you understand of how things eventually evolve from.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Mario, your ocean is in another castle.
And I think, one cool thing about this mission is obviously because of Jupiter's huge magnetic field, the moons generally have, um, they're generally, my understanding is there's a lot of radiation around them. So something cool that they're doing is they're basically going into this elliptical orbit, or will eventually go into this elliptical orbit after a bunch of flybys to actually get to Europa, so that they don't spend too much time in the high radiation zone, and then they can, you know, go up to the apogee. Well, I guess it's not an apogee, the apoapsis, transfer and transmit that information back to Earth, go back down, take more measurements, and keep doing this, and that'll help prolong the spacecraft's lifespan, since it won't just be in that really high radiation zone for a long time.
Yeah, you're talking a swooping thing of anywhere from as close as I believe it is 20 kilometers to uh, 20,000 kilometers, all different types of altitudes. Because of the way that the orbit is, it's going to be coming in at all different angles. So basically, you're not going to get the same look twice as a way to also help map as much of the moon as possible.
Yeah, it is a cool mission indeed. But
Psyched.
getting to some of your guys' questions, Chris starting off with a good one. Chris W asking, how long will it take to get to Europa? Sawyer?
That is a great question. So, as much as it would have been nice to see this get there next year or the year after, this is going to be taking its time. This is going to take about 6 years to get there, expected to arrive for its 4 year science mission starting in 2030. To do that, it is going to do a couple of gravity assists. So, first, it's going to do a gravity assist with the help of Mars no earlier than February 28th of next year. Then it will do another Earth gravity assist in December of 2026 for hopefully that orbital insertion in April of 2030.
Yeah, and I think they're expecting to start getting some really useful data out of it by like 2031, somewhere in there. So it'll certainly be, a few years to see the awesomeness be transmitted to Earth and have scientists start analyzing it. But today is the start of that mission, which is just extremely exciting. I think we can all agree on that. Um, Going over a little bit of support. Let's see. Caitlin gifted 5 Red Team memberships. Thank you very much. Ben became a Red Team member, as did Korani. Welcome to the Red Team program. Caitlin with a super chat saying, I still can't believe yesterday happened and so excited for Europa Clipper today. Thanks for the great coverage for all things spaceflight. Yeah, I think we're all still a little bit starstruck, but it's awesome that 2 cool events back to back. Susan becoming a PadRed member, and then a Moldy Space Industries with the super chat saying, how long until all of these worlds are ours and we can attempt a landing on Europa? 2001 reference. Uh, I have not watched 2001 A Space-Time Odyssey.
Of course you haven't.
Well,
I'm
so because it's a
sorry.
space odyssey.
I hope, is it a good reference at least?
I mean, yeah,
I
Yeah, it's not
appreciate it.
surprising. It's Moldy. Thank you,
it's
Moldy.
only yeah.
And then Storm saying Flight 5 was amazing. Thank you guys for the constant Starbase content, keeping up to date on all things spaceflight. Go Falcon Heavy, go NSF. Well, thank you for the kind words. But that name actually reminds me of one thing that I don't think we've talked about yet, and that is the weather on today's mission. Sawyer, since you're the native to California and have experienced the not so good weather over the last bit, how is weather looking today? How did Falcon Heavy fare all of the hurricanes that came through?
That's a good question. By the way, it was the sequel to that one, 2010. That's a reference to apparently. Thank you, chat. So the weather today is absolutely spectacular. It is the usual hot, humid Florida that you expect, but there is barely a cloud in the sky, a couple of thin little wispy ones. The sun is shining and it's absolutely beautiful. As you mentioned, quite different from just a couple of days ago when this was originally supposed to launch, but then Hurricane Milton came through. There was no major issues to the spacecraft. They did all their inspections here and reopened the Kennedy Space Center just a couple days ago so that they could get this rocket up at the pad and ready to launch. The official forecast, by the way, 95% go.
Indeed. And in case they do have to stand down from today's launch for any reason, there are basically daily backup opportunities until what, November 6th, I believe. So thankfully, they have a little bit of time to make sure this mission gets off the ground, especially given the fact that SpaceX has done upgrades to 39A over the last year or so to increase propellant capacity so that they can do back-to-back launch attempts, correct, Alex?
Yeah, that's the list of all of the. Well, it's part of the launch windows. I believe NASA has not updated their website to show the ones for November, but yeah, they have windows up until November 6th, and pretty much, that one of the interesting things as well is that they found a little bit more, like the window was able to be stretched all the way to November 6th because they kept looking at ways of how Falcon Heavy could be able to do this mission, even with with the extended window, how it will be able to do that. And so that was very nice for SpaceX to do that.
Yeah, very important for these interplanetary launches where they may only have a handful of launch opportunities. Then I
And
have oh,
oh,
go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was just going to add that the launch window is technically 15 seconds. They
Exactly.
choose that exact T0, I believe they said about 3 hours ahead of time, just to make sure they don't run into anything on the way up. And then that 15-second window is just repeated. But of course, once they get into propellant loading, uh, they are locked into a specific instantaneous launch window.
And another thing, which is what I was going to go on before, is that a recent upgrade that they have done to 39A as well, which is very helpful for these missions, is that before the upgrade, Falcon Heavy could do a 24-hour recycle. So imagine, they load the rocket, they have to stand down for whatever reason, and then they could recycle. So they have enough propellant on the tank farm at 39A to be able to recycle for a 24-hour turnaround, so to speak, right? But after that 24-hour turnaround, they will have to wait like 4 or 5 days to be able to replenish all of the consumables if they were also to stand down on the second day. Now, apparently, they don't have that hold up because they have installed new tanks for kerosene and liquid oxygen at the pad that extends the capacity of the tank farm, and so they are able to hold more propellant, and therefore they are able to essentially keep going if they were to have a stand down. So they have a capability of having multiple stand downs and still try again within a very short amount of time, which is good when you're trying to launch such an important interplanetary mission like Europa Clipper.
Yeah, indeed. Um, Fake Blood is wondering how old are the side boosters? All of the cores are fairly new on this launch. So the center core is brand new, and then the side cores are flying for their sixth and final time. Everything is being expended. The side cores have previously supported USSF 44, USSF 67, Echostar 24, Psyche, USSF 52, and then now, of course, Europa Clipper.
Can I just point out how you say not that many when we say 6 is still mind blowing?
They feel like
They
fairly new boosters.
Yeah, they have launch boosters already past their 20th flight. And I think the average now is like the 12th flight for a booster. Like if you were to randomly go to a Falcon launch or something, the booster is like on average around the 10th, 11th or 12th flight. So, yeah, 6 flights feels like it's not that old. In terms of like longevity, I guess will be the word, right? of how long was their first flight, how long ago that was. That was in November 2022, so that was a couple of years ago. But there are even older boosters on the fleet, so not that old.
Yeah. But at least they're being expended for a cool payload, a worthy cause.
Yep.
Tis a worthy cause.
Oh,
By the way,
Julia.
hi
Here we
everyone.
have Julia,
Hi.
our
Heroic
local
Julia out in the field here.
our
Sorry.
local cookie expert.
Yeah. I don't plan on being on comms because Sawyer's here. Sawyer's hooked up to lovely Starlink. I'm on the roof. I still have reception. If y'all want to ping in with me, I can say hi, but I don't plan on talking. Plan on just, watching a rocket, tracking it, trying to
Awesome.
photograph it, trying to maybe get a behind the scenes view. Oh, no, wait, that involves my phone. Never mind. My phone's going to be in my hand or pocket. Never mind, whatever. I'll try and remember to locally record.
Cool. Well, thank you for being out there, Julia.
No problem. And I'll try and get a picture with one camera. Yay.
And I got cameras
Um,
out too, so we are set for awesome views.
Here's an interesting question that I certainly don't know the answer to, and maybe one of you do. Marson is wondering, why is the mission called Clipper? Do either of you know?
Sawyer? Maybe Julia, because it's about a boat, and
I
Julia
was going to
likes
say
boats.
I don't know the exact answer, but Clipper is it's a historically based boat. But which one? Um, Sailing Among the Stars. I'm not quite sure, but now I'm going to get the big fat mission book out.
It's the Clipper. It's like a type of vessel, a type of boat that essentially just went into the ports, and quickly went out again. And so the whole deal with that is that Europa Clipper will quickly go to Europa. It will stay there. It will fly by very quickly and then get out again because there's these radiation belts and everything. And so it needs to do that very quickly. And so that's why it is Europa Clipper. There was another mission that was proposed at one point, which was called Europa Lander. And so these two missions were like sort of twins, or more like a couple, right? One will launch like 5 years before the other. And so the Clipper mission will be a scout mission to be able to find a good, suitable landing site for the Europa Lander. And so, of course, Europa Clipper, Europa Lander is no longer happening. And Europa Clipper was essentially just, scaled down a little bit in the scope, but still is doing an amazing array of science, and like it has 9 instruments, as Sawyer was talking about earlier. But the Clipper in Europa Clipper is because of that, because it needs to go in, it does a fast flyby and then comes out again, avoids all of the nasty radiation environment near Jupiter. And so yeah, that's why it was a type of boat in the 19th century, essentially, that was called like that.
Here's me trying to pay attention to you and Robin. You all remember Robin? I just saw Robin for the first time in years. Hey, Sawyer, did you take a picture of the Europa display that's inside of the press site?
No, I didn't.
Okay, I'm about to do that so I can give it to you all as an asset.
Also, tell Robin I say hi and to come in and say hi.
Robin already ran away. But yeah.
Sorry. Anyway, back to Europa coverage.
Let's see. Here's an interesting question from Bucket saying, do we know how much NASA actually paid SpaceX due to all 3 cores being expended? I would assume the price tag would be higher due to this. Yes, we do actually know the launch cost of this mission. And Alex, it is
$178 million. That's what NASA paid SpaceX for this mission. And for those that may have maybe somewhat of a memory from when this was supposed to launch on Julia Hot Mic, by the way.
Why, Jenny, do NASA and its partners?
Julia?
At least on this planet, there's water. And know that there's
I believe Julia is not listening. Back in the day, this spacecraft was supposed to launch on SLS, And well, it was moved to Falcon Heavy for two reasons. The first one being that apparently the SLS rocket with the solar rocket boosters was going to impart a lot of forces on Europa Clipper that it was not built to support. And if it had been built to support that, it would have been more expensive to develop, to build, and everything. So they wanted a commercial launcher. Now, the problem is SLS is also very expensive. And so if you've read the news, the price tag of an SLS rocket is about $2.5 billion just for the rocket itself. So 178 million versus 2.5 billion. I think Falcon Heavy is a lot cheaper. It is true though, the Europa Clipper will not be sent to Jupiter directly, which SLS can do that. But on the flip side, you avoid spending a lot of money, which frankly NASA doesn't have right now.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly impressive that it's almost 15 times cheaper or so.
Yeah.
That is what reuse allows, and just yeah. Going to some more support. Chris W says, I mean Galileo, but can he do the Fandango? Oh, that's a Queen reference. Chris will be proud of me. I got it. Thank you, Chris. TY says, I wore my NSF hoodie to a corporate meet today. That's awesome. I've also worn mine in professional settings, and people have never been mad at that. So, Wilbo Baggins saying, watch, support, repeat. Thank you, Wilbo. We really appreciate your support. And then saying the same thing a couple of minutes later, watch, support, repeat. So you are not lying. Thank you, Wilbo. VDiv became a red team member. And then Astro says, been waiting for Europa Clipper to launch for a long time. Crazy to think names of my family are on board the spacecraft as part of the Message in a Bottle project. Yeah, that was a cool project indeed. But that said, I think we should start going over the timeline as we get close to propellant loading. Alex, can you take us through what we'll see propellant loading wise and then Ascent corridor wise?
Yeah, so right now we are waiting for that go-no-go poll for propellant load to start. Essentially, that happens around 53 minutes. That's when they give the final go for propellant load. Remember, today's mission, while it has a 15-second window, obviously it's just 15 seconds, and currently they are targeting the end of that window, essentially 12:06 and 00 p.m. Eastern. So they really need to go for propellant load, otherwise we'll see a stand down for today. But there you go, 53 minutes, LD verifies go for launch, go for propellant load, excuse me, and then at 50 minutes before the launch, we'll have start of RP1 load on the first stage boosters. Then they load the liquid oxygen on the first stage at T-minus 45 minutes. This is different from Falcon 9, where, you know, first stage gets loaded both RP1 and liquid oxygen at T-minus 35 minutes. But at T-minus 35 minutes, then they go with the second stage RP1 load. So it will be essentially just like on Falcon 9 for that tank. Then the T-minus 20-minute vent, it is not T-minus 20-minute vent on Falcon Heavy, it is T-minus 22 minutes vent, because it ends, they start the chill down of the liquid oxygen line 2 minutes earlier, which also means the liquid oxygen load also happens about 2 minutes earlier as well on Falcon Heavy, starting at T-minus 18 minutes instead of T-minus 16 minutes. But overall, the rest of the countdown is pretty much very similar to a Falcon 9. The engines get chilled at T-minus 7, Stromback retracts at T-minus 5. Then we go into the latest stages of the propellant load with, you know, RP1 load complete and Stromback and liquid oxygen on both first and second stages, and then at T-minus 2 and T-minus 1 minute, T-minus 3 and T-minus 2 minutes, excuse me, and then at T-minus 1 minute we'll have startup. So overall, after T-minus 18 minutes or so, it'll be just like a Falcon 9, although at launch it will not be like a Falcon 9. At least until side booster separation. That's the Ascent timeline, as you can see there. We'll have the liftoff. The boosters are gonna essentially burn for all of the propellant that they have. because they are being expended. And so there's not going to be any remaining fuel left over, and that means they're going to burn for 3 minutes,
That is
which
a
is bonkers.
long first stage Falcon burn.
Exactly. And then the first stage, the center core, will
Yeah.
also burn for another extra minute. Remember, the center core throttles down about 10 seconds into flight, and that's the way that they keep more propellant for longer because it consumes less, a much lower amount of it. And there you can see sort of, 4 minutes fairing, 4.5 minutes fairing jettison. Those fairings are going to be coming back down. The boosters are not going to be recovered, but those fairing halves will be recovered. A very short burn for the second stage, as you can see there, about 3.5 minutes, almost 4 minutes, to get into orbit after stage separation. And then the burn to depart for interplanetary space, it's 3 minutes, which is a long burn for that MVAC engine on the second stage after, having already been gone into orbit. But, the heavy lifting on this heavy rocket is on the first stage. That's the whole deal.
Yeah, and the fairing halves on today's mission are new, correct?
We believe so. Yeah, the fairing halves are new.
Yeah, very, very cool. So yeah, that's why when we go over that timeline, when SpaceX needs a 4-minute burn of that center core, that is why they are expending this entire vehicle. They need every ounce of performance that they can get. Gosh, I just love the look of Falcon Heavy, especially with the city side cores. It looks so cool. Here's a interesting question. Where will the probe go after observing the moon? Because my understanding is for previous spacecraft, we've ensured that we do not crash them into Europa, instead having them deorbit into Jupiter itself. Is that the plan for this probe as well?
CE, go.
Yes and no.
SMA,
SMA, go.
SMD,
SMD, go.
NASA MEM,
NASA MEM, go.
LSP,
LSPs, go.
NLM copies. The NASA Europa Clipper team is go for propellant load and go for launch.
Nice.
That is
That's
what
what we
we
like to
want to hear. So just to clarify, that is
The NASA
NASA's team. Yeah.
Yep.
Saying there go for launch. SpaceX's own go no go poll starts in 5 minutes, right? Or was it 2 minutes ago?
It should be underway already, but the final decision will be called out at T-minus 53 minutes.
Yeah, that's. Yep. So in the next 2.5 minutes, we'll get the go from SpaceX, and if SpaceX is go, then they will start propellant load, and then the flight director will be go at T-minus 45 seconds as usual, and that will clear the way for liftoff of today's mission.
Yeah, and I think the one that did the call out was the mission manager from NASA, and yeah, the next thing will be the flight director from SpaceX.
Yeah. Anyway.
In the meantime, to
back
answer that question,
Yes. Sawyer.
so they are not crashing it into Jupiter when it is done. You are correct, though, in that they will not crash it into Europa, because if there is that potential for the building blocks of life, we don't want to accidentally contaminate it. So to do it, instead, they will crash it into Ganymede, one of the other moons of Jupiter.
Interesting.
Yeah,
It's
apparently
very
it has
cool.
a thicker shelf on the outside so that when it does crash, it wouldn't have any chance of going into any potential oceans or anything below, so it's a
Ah.
lower risk of contamination.
Yeah. Very nice that NASA thought about that, just to be safe. Let's see. Another question here is asking, is this the highest launch of Falcon Heavy to date? And I assume by highest they're talking about C3. And Alex, this would be the highest C3 Falcon Heavy or any SpaceX launch to date, correct?
Yes, so C3, for those that don't know, it's an orbital mechanics thing, which essentially comes down to the greater it is, the more energy you're putting onto your probe or payload or whatever you're launching. You don't need to know what it actually means for the purposes of this broadcast, but just know that the higher, more energy you're putting onto it. And so this mission, I believe, is going to be 42 of a C3. The current record is by Psyche, I believe, at 34, 35. And Hera, which was launched, I think it was last week. I don't remember anymore. Time is just a flat circle, as Jack will say. Yeah, actually, a week ago to the day, on the 7th. And yeah, Hera was also around 32, 33 of a C3. Whoever wants to know about that, you can DM me. Or just Google. Google is your friend. But yeah, we're not going to explain overall mechanics on this
Loading and launch.
broadcast today. Oh, is that what I think I heard just now?
Was that go for launch?
Yeah, go for propellant load from the
Yeah.
flight director.
Awesome. That is exactly what we wanted to hear. So yeah, we should start seeing signs of that in about 2 minutes. At T minus 50 minutes is when they start loading RP1 onto both stages, and then at T minus 45 minutes is when they begin loading liquid oxygen onto all three cores and the center core. Or all three cores and the second stage, sorry.
Yeah.
And I think, just to quickly bring up Starship, because how could we not? This really highlights how absurdly
Falcon Heavy
quickly
tanks are
Starship is.
venting for the start of propellant load.
Nice.
Awesome. This really puts into perspective how absurdly quickly Starship is fueled, since it's about over three times as much propellant as Falcon Heavy in the same amount of time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, Falcon Heavy holds, I think, at around 1,200 tons of propellant, which is already a lot of propellant, by the way. Starship, the full stack, holds 3.5 times that much, and it is loaded in about the same amount of time, also about 50 minutes. So yeah, that's a lot of propellant.
Yeah. But in relation to our
This
last
is the
question,
launch director with abort instructions. For non-urgent no-go conditions, brief the CULD and they will approve aborting the countdown. For urgent issues affecting the safety of the operation, operator shall call hold on the countdown net. Launch control will abort the launch auto sequence immediately and proceed into the launch abort auto sequence. At T-minus 10 seconds, launch control will be hands-off and relying on automated abort criteria for the remainder of the count.
To be very clear, that is abort instructions. That is not an abort. They are still
those are
go for
instructions.
today's launch.
Exactly.
So,
this
they
is a
do
standard for all. Yeah,
Yep.
this is a standard for all rocket launches, also for SpaceX as well. You know, whenever they go for something as active as it is propellant load, they need to make clear and make sure that operators know what are the instructions in case something needs to be stopped in the count, right? Something is going on, and there needs to be something that is stopped. And so one of the operators, whoever looks at something, hang on. I was waiting for the call out. Okay,
Launch auto
we don't
sequence
have
has
the.
started.
That's the call out for launch auto sequence. I was like waiting for it. So yeah, they, operators, whoever sees something that is not going right, they need to immediately call, that hold. And so that's why they need to be reminded of that. There needs to be an instructions, just read the instructions, right?
Just listen to the instructions.
But yeah, propellant load is now on their way on the first stage.
Indeed. But going to that question that relates to what we were talking about a bit earlier, Quakers29 is wondering, what's the delta V difference between this and a standard Falcon 9 launch? Alex, do you have an answer to that? Because I certainly don't know off the top of my head.
A lot. I really wouldn't know exactly. One of the problems of this is, of course, we don't really have a lot of data. One of the things that we might be able to see. Oh, Well, no, because this is a NASA mission. Okay, never mind. I was gonna say, oh well, they have the telemetry and whatnot. NASA unfortunately does not provide the telemetry, like SpaceX does. But yeah, the speed and altitude and everything. In fact, I think the numbers that NASA usually puts, it's like some fake numbers, which I don't like, to be honest. But yeah, that would be one of the ways if we actually got a number on how fast that second stage will go at the end of its final burn, when it puts Europa Clipper into that interplanetary trajectory. You could, in theory, have just do the same, like take that velocity, subtract the one from a typical Falcon 9 launch, and see what's the difference, right? But unfortunately, I don't think we'll know.
Yeah. Cool. Well, going over some more supports. Oh, this is an awesome message from Echo Deal, saying, Clippy, it looks like you're trying to launch a rocket. Would you like some help?
Oh, I love it. Trevor, do you get that reference?
Only because of how much Clippy has been memed on. I don't really know if I ever like saw Clippy in person, like when using a sufficiently old computer.
Oh, I feel old now. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's see. Musical Wolves are regular around here, saying, is the launch cheaper because the sidecores have been used before, even though they're being expended? My guess is SpaceX amortizes that cost out across all launches, so yes, would be my guess, but we obviously don't know how SpaceX does that contracts these expended missions, especially for massive customers like NASA.
Also, I'm gonna be honest here. SLS is expensive because of a whole different set of reasons than being expendable. Starship, for example, if it were fully expendable, and to be fair, until yesterday it was fully expendable because the first 4 flights, well, they recovered a little bit of Booster 11, right? But they did not actually recover anything of substance that they could say, oh, we're gonna refly, right? The problem is a lot of these traditional contractors just boost a lot of the prices on all of this stuff. And I remember Gwyn Shotwell once saying that she doesn't know how to build a rocket that is like $2 billion of launch cost. So, like there's no way. Like how can you even begin to make a rocket that can cost so much money, right? Like, how can you even do that? So she doesn't know, right? And so one of the things with Falcon, even in expendable configuration, it's a rather good rocket in terms of price, right? It's not that expensive.
Yeah, especially when you can, a little under 2/3 of the vehicle is being flown for its 6th time. But as this timeline is showing, we are just seconds away from stage 1 liquid oxygen load beginning. So this is when they will start flowing liquid oxygen into all 3 stages.
You'll be hearing that call out soon.
PY and Land Center Core LOX load has started.
There you go.
Casual TY bag saying, great work, NSF. Did you manage to get a camera on Europa Clipper? We do not, unfortunately. Actually, probably fortunately. We don't need... I would much rather have all of that mass go to useful NASA payloads.
We need to ask STAS.
Right? I mean, there's a bunch of people's names on it, at least. They have a special plate, and in it is, I believe, over 2 million names of people on that. So, that count as a camera? No? Okay, close enough.
Also,
Wilbo Baggins fulfilling his promise of watch, support, repeat, not just once, but another 2 times. So thank you very much, Wilbo. Thank you for always being around and for all your very generous support. Sorry, 3 times. You're awesome, Wilbo. Thank you.
Wow.
Rod was saying, are you still on shook from yesterday's catch? Yes, I think we all are.
You know, it's ironic because on SpaceX's schedule, for those like you and me, Trevor, right, that have our own spreadsheets. If you look at the schedule from SpaceX, they had an expendable launch with Hera, and then this expendable launch with Falcon Heavy and Europa Clipper, and in between, there's this awesome booster catch, which is like next step recovery operations kind of thing, right? With rockets. It's kind of ironic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a crazy time to be alive. It's exciting. Julio became a PadRad member. Welcome. Ground umbilical carrier plates. I think that's a name that gives Sawyer
Oh,
yeah.
no,
That.
no.
How much faster would the trip have taken if it launched on SLS? Is launching on Falcon Heavy still going to get there sooner than waiting for SLS? Sawyer, how much time did the switch from SLS to Falcon Heavy add in terms of time to actually get there?
Uh, that is a really good question, and I guess the thing worth noting is are we talking about total time or if the rocket had been ready? Because that was one of the other issues was being able to have one of those rockets ready in time. It was definitely going to be faster. We have a Mars and an Earth gravity assist for this one, so that is going to slow things down a little bit. I don't know the exact number. I don't know if Alex has that number off the top of his head. I don't have it off the top of mine.
Which one exactly? Sorry, I was
How long was
listening
it going to
to.
take on SLS?
How long was it going to take? I think it was going to be like 2 years or so. I believe originally it was supposed to launch also in 2024 during this window on SLS. Spoiler alert, there's no SLS ready right now for launch. Well, there's some parts of it, but they're not integrated. And it will have arrived, I believe, in 2026. That was the idea. So it will arrive
4 years.
with Falcon Heavy. Exactly, it will arrive 4 years later than it would with SLS, but they are saving a lot of money. And you can start to see there frost on one of the side boosters as liquid oxygen load continues.
We can. Ooh, that's the... Is that the MY or PY? I have to orient myself.
That should be the MY. MY standing for minus Y, by the way, for those that are watching. That refers to the coordinate system for the rocket. That will be the negative sign of the Y-axis.
So that should be B1064 then on MY. We believe.
I believe so, yes.
64 is generally the lower serial number of the side cores is the MY, and then the higher serial number is the PY. Not always, but so far. Ron says, who is excited for Starlink launches to restart? I am very excited. I want more launches in general, and it certainly feels like we haven't had many this last quarter. This last quarter, SpaceX actually only launched, what, 17? Was it 27 or 17 times?
27, and 17 of those were Starlink. You can see that stat on my recent most article on NSF.
Yeah.
So I put out all the stats, a rundown of all the anomalies and everything. It's kind of crazy that they had 3 different anomalies and 3 groundings and whatnot, and they still launched 27 times. Like even China, which was the other more active launch place or company or country or whatever, I think they launched like 16 times only. So it was like 2/3 of what SpaceX launched.
Yeah.
So SpaceX was the most active launcher in the world, in even though they had like multiple failures and whatnot.
Well, I'm excited because they're always not your ordinary Starlink.
Yeah, that'll be the next one is this evening, by the way. So
2 ones back to back. But I see a couple people asking about support ships. Archangel, for example, is wondering how far downrange is the recovery ship. So obviously, we don't have any drone ships downrange for this mission since the cores are all being expended. However, the fairings will be recovered, and those will be recovered about 2,070 kilometers downrange. So this is the furthest downrange fairing recovery of any SpaceX mission to date. I believe the previous record is about 1,900 kilometers, so it's ways further downrange.
Can we go
And
back
that
to
is
Fleet Cam again?
By the way, that's Goes Cosmos that will be down there for the fairing recovery, as you see on screen.
Look at that. We have the Blue Origin barge, and then we have just read the instructions. But if you look at that, there should be another barge from SpaceX, right? That is a shortfall of gravitas, which is downrange to get ready for that next Starlink launch that we were just talking about before. They really did not waste any time to get that out.
Yeah, it's so weird seeing 2 drone ships there still with Blue Origins. Going back to some more support, RC Horseman, a usual around here, gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Thank you, RC Horseman. And if you got one of those, make sure you thank RC Horseman. Casual Bag asking if the mission, if this mission finds life, how would it change our world? Also, understanding about life. I think it would change absolutely everything we know about it. Because one question that I think this mission is really trying to answer is, so far there's evidence of there being, what are they called? Where,
An
like,
ocean under the crust, yeah.
Yeah, but in the ocean, right, there's the gas vents.
Building blocks of life. Oh, those gas
yeah.
vents, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some name for them that I'm forgetting right now. And on Earth, what we've seen is there's a bunch of life that is able to live off of the heat and whatever else is coming out of those gas vents and doesn't actually need the sun to photosynthesize. So it's kind of, there are whole colonies around these gas
Hydrothermal vents.
Yeah, hydrothermal vent. Thank you. So it's thought that there could be life around those hydrothermal vents, which would allow us to just learn a ton about, how life around those forms in absence of all of the photosynthesis life that we see here on Earth. So yeah, I mean, I think this would just be a completely groundbreaking discovery, and hopefully we get it.
I do just want to clarify, this is not a life-finding mission. That is not one of the goals of this. The goal, though, is to look to see if there are all of the building blocks and the essentials that are needed for life to survive out there as we know life.
Yeah, because one of the things is that we know that where there's water, right, and where there's a source of energy in that water, at least on Earth, we can find life, right, when those things are together. And one of the things that this mission carries is that spectrographer, whatever it's actually the name. Yeah. I cannot think right now with all of the things.
But there's the ultraviolet spectrograph and then the mapping imaging spectrometer for Europa.
Yeah, so there's both. There you go. The spectrometer and the spectrographer, they are both going to be able to pinpoint certain chemical elements and compounds that will, in theory, be present, and those will give us the clues whether they are the ingredients for life, right? We will not be able to precisely say whether there's life or not, but it's very interesting because everywhere you look on Mars, even on Venus, you can find a bunch of these ingredients, right? Maybe not the right conditions, maybe not everything is completely good to go, but water, for example, you can find it pretty much everywhere on the solar system, a bunch of other elements as well, and compounds and everything, right? It's really interesting, and one of the key goals as well is to understand the dynamics of this crust, of how this water comes up, and it's sort of like the tectonic plates here on Earth, right, where you have this ice going down, getting melted on the ocean underneath, and then they have more water coming out of plumes They think there are still plumes on Europa, although it's still sort of a debate in the community about whether it's conclusive evidence or not. In very short terms, man, even though it's not about finding life, it will find a lot of information about what are the conditions on Europa, and it will have a lot of information about that. Yeah, a lot of data.
Yeah. And another question in this vein, if we find life, will it taste of chicken? Probably. Everything seems to taste like chicken.
Maybe like seafood, right?
Yeah. Katya saying, I am thinking frog with a frog emoji. Thank you for your support. Jared with the super chat saying, does SpaceX remove the landing legs on the side boosters in expendable flights for extra performance? Part of it is extra performance, part of it's also just they're expending the booster. They don't want to throw away unnecessary hardware.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's also the grid fins are removed too, so it's the legs and fins are gone.
Yeah.
Even the RCS thrusters are gone as well.
Yeah. And the grid fins are very expensive, so those make a lot of sense. And there's the payload.
You can see the instruments and everything.
It is massive, by the way. That is the largest interplanetary spacecraft NASA has ever built. It is from basically solar panel tip to solar panel tip as long as a basketball court. I believe that's about 35 meters.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
This would be, like Alex was saying earlier, this would be enormous for a geostationary satellite. And this is going way further.
Interplanetary.
Stationary.
Exactly.
Also worth noting that there's another Jupiter mission that helped influence the design of this. You may remember the Juno spacecraft that was around Jupiter. Those used massive solar panels as well. And it turns out they got some pretty good performance all the way out there even. So rather than deal with the issues of nuclear and an RTG, as it's called, basically nuclear power attached with a thermal generator, they decided to go with the solar panels again.
Yeah. Wilbo Baggins with another super chat, his like 5th or 6th of the day, saying, stop my watch support repeat idea. Well, Wilbo, thank you very much for all your support today. It's been very, very generous, and thank you for just always being around and hanging out. And with that, I just want to thank everyone for being around and hanging out. It is much appreciated. Ignazio saying, thank you for the awesome coverage. It is our pleasure. And then Rupon getting a few things from the store, saying, you guys rock even if I am not Jack's favorite. I love when you randomly come online and hang. Let's apply this to the Jack Kilt Fund. Keep up the good work. Well, thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy your knitted holiday beanies and everything else you ordered. Kat with the super chat saying, thanks NF for amazing coverage as always. What a time to be here. Love all the info and discussions. Our pleasure. And then Wilbo Baggins did not stop with his idea, saying with another super chat saying, watch, support, repeat. Wilbo, thank you. This is like 6th or 7th of the day. That is insane. Anyway, back to some more of your guys' questions as we are about 8 minutes away from the T-minus 20-minute vent, which is not the T-minus 20-minute vent on Falcon Heavy. Alex, why is the T-minus 20-minute vent different?
Well, it comes with the nature of that vent, right? We always talk about how that vent, it is the LOX chill down vent, and what that means is that they thermally condition those lines, the liquid oxygen line that goes to the second stage. So the second stage at T-minus 18 minutes will start the liquid oxygen load. And so about 4 minutes or so before that, they start the conditioning. That conditioning takes about 4 minutes or so. What that means is on Falcon Heavy, because the second stage liquid oxygen load begins 2 minutes earlier at T-minus 18.5 minutes, what that means then, it also that T minus, that vent from the Stromback comes at T minus 22 minutes instead of T minus 20 minutes, which, Falcon 9 second stage liquid oxygen load begins at T minus 16 and a half. So that 2-minute difference comes just because of when in the sequence they load liquid oxygen, and therefore, it needs to, because it is 2 minutes early in the countdown, then that conditioning also needs to begin 2 minutes earlier.
Right. But do we know why the second stage fueling timeline is a little different?
I'm not fully sure, but it's probably down to, how they still need to fully load all of those 3 liquid oxygen tanks on the first stage, because you have the one side booster, the center core, and the other side booster, as you can see there. Those are still being full, they're still being filled with liquid oxygen. You can see sort of like a progress bar as they get filled with liquid oxygen. Frost starts appearing on the outside wall of the tank, and so you see it's maybe like 40% perhaps, approaching 50% of the tank being full. So of course, when you have more liquid oxygen to load, you probably need to take more time on the second stage. In that case, the second stage liquid oxygen tank it's a lot smaller, but you still need to share those resources across all of the other 3 boosters, and so it makes sense that they probably need a little bit more time to load liquid oxygen onto the rocket. The same way that the RP1 load also starts earlier on the first stage, and then the second stage, more or less, it's also 35 minutes before liftoff. But they need to load the RP1 load. That RP1 load begins a lot earlier on the first stage. T minus 50 minutes.
Right. The one other thing that I just realized, or someone pointed out to me that we forgot to talk about, Michael pointed out, are we going to discuss a disagreement with the 400 launch count? I will do that real quick. So there are 2 ways that launches can be counted, and both, in my opinion, are equally valid. The first is number of launches, which is how many times has a vehicle intentionally lit its engines and gotten off of the pad. And that is what this number is, that this is the 400 times SpaceX has done that. But that excludes something like AMO 6, where AMO 6 is not counted as a launch because it never actually got to that point. However, AMO 6 was obviously a mission failure, right? SpaceX destroyed this payload. They were unable to deliver it to the orbit that was intended. So AMO 6 is a mission but not a launch. Then conversely, we also have some missions, like for example these Starship test flights, that I count, and Alex says as well, as a launch but not a mission, because there's no payload to be deployed. So if you count this by times the engines were ignited and SpaceX got a rocket off of the pad, this is launch number 400. If you count this in terms of missions, this is mission number 396. So that includes AMO 6, but does not include any of those Starship missions. Hopefully that kind of explains it. Alex, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just to put it in perspective, also, there's the caveat here. If you say, for example, you say, oh, New Shepard launches don't count because they are suborbital. Well, I have another launch out of Falcon 9 here that will be suborbital, which is the in-flight abort test. So to get to 400 launches here, you need to have 5 Falcon 1 launches that have happened, right? 379 Falcon 9 launches that have happened, one of which was suborbital, 5 Starship launches, which we have already seen, right? And 10 Falcon Heavy launches, this one being the 11th of the Falcon Heavy. You can say that this mission will bring Falcon Heavy to 11, right? I wanted to make that pun today. And so if you add up all of those numbers, you get 400. So, or rather, if you add up the missions that the launches that have already happened, you get 399, this one being the 400th. So that's why the discrepancy, because you could also say, oh, I don't count the suborbital launches, then, well, Starship launches don't count, in-flight abort test from Falcon 9 doesn't count, so then you have like 6 fewer launches on your count, and so it's 393, and this will be the 394 launch. Okay, goodbye you. I count it different. I still think that even in flyboard test, there's an argument to be made that the fact that you're fueling a rocket, that you're putting it up in the air, that you're lighting the engines, and you're trying to do a mission like that, right? You're still, even though it doesn't get to orbit, it's still a big deal, especially with Starship, right? It doesn't reach orbit and whatnot. I mean, it doesn't, because that's the whole point of the mission.
It's an
If they
arse
wanted
you
to
have
go
to
to
pop
orbit,
away.
exactly, right? If they wanted to reach orbit, you just need to burn the Raptors for like 2 extra seconds. It's not a big deal.
Then I see people arguing about all the SN hops.
Okay, those definitely.
They lit the
Yeah.
engines and took off. That was Alex's criteria.
See why we said it's somewhat complicated, but to me, there's a pretty big difference between those suborbital hops and even IFA.
Yeah, because the suborbital hops were not even the full rocket. That is also another one of the conditions that I put here as well. Falcon 9 on the in-flight abort test, it was a full rocket. The second stage, the only thing that it was missing, it was a real engine, right? It had a mass simulator for the engine instead. Other than that, they still needed to fully load a full rocket. But speaking of fuel loads, by the way, we are approaching that T-minus 22-minute event, and I believe that is the start of it.
Yeah.
I
One
can
other
very
cool
clearly see that. Yes, it is definitely happening with the Mark 1 eyeballs.
Yeah, one other cool thing that I actually don't know if we've mentioned about today's mission is this will be SpaceX's 99th launch of 2024. And that number may sound somewhat familiar because last year, 2023, SpaceX had 98 launches. So this will be tying the number of Falcon missions, and because there's been one more Starship mission this year, this will be the most SpaceX has ever launched in a year, and it's only the middle of October. So hopefully, SpaceX will be able to get up to, 125 missions or so by the end of the year, especially now that hopefully, let's all cross our fingers, weather in Florida starts improving.
It's kind of crazy, right? Because we're talking about how this will be the 400th launch for SpaceX, and that this is the 99th. So that means a quarter of all of the launches by SpaceX in its history are happening this year.
Yeah, that is
like
insane.
a quarter. And if you go and you add up the ones from 2023, then that means more than half of all of the launches by SpaceX occurred in the last 2 years, which is bonkers.
Yeah. Very much bonkers. Bonkies, as Jack would say.
Yeah, but he would also call this mission Clippy.
Yeah, but then you can't call Hoppy Hoppy else he gets mad, so.
Exactly, and Jack can't defend himself at the moment.
Would it be Falcon Heavy?
Oh, that's awful. No.
Nobody tell him this, by the way. Otherwise he will do that.
Gary with a super chat saying, thanks for all you do, but serious question. What you do takes a lot of hours. Do you also have a side, like a full-time gig on the side? Varies by members.
Stage 2 RP1 load is complete.
There we go.
A lot of us do other things, so it depends on the person. Andrew says, absolutely epic week for spaceflight. Love the coverage, guys. That is an understatement if I've ever heard one. This week is insane. Kyle with 2 super chats. Thank you very much, Kyle. And then James with a store message saying, thanks for your amazing dedication to all the launches. Space Coast and Starbase Live are great companions when writing stories in the middle of the night. Yeah, it always is entertaining just throwing them up, seeing what's going on with all the different launch providers and whatnot. So thank you for your kind words. Laura says, keep up the great work. RC Horseman, a normal around here, saying, or gifting 5 Red Team memberships. And then Wilbo Baggins for his 10th piece of support today, gifting 10 Red Team memberships. So thank you, RC Horseman. Thank you, Wilbo Baggins. 2 very, very regular names, and not the first time today, even. Tim with a $20 super chat saying,
look at that.
Off topic, I know.
Birds.
Is this from our very own Dr. WD-40?
It is. I can already see
Another
how happy Gage is, by the way, who loves birds here. But yeah, we got Dr. WD40 who's also up there on Twitch, giving us these views too.
Yeah, and we should also have that view for launch, so more cameras, more better.
Stage 2
but
launch
Tim,
load has started.
there
There we
we
go.
go. Stage 2 LOX load has started. Saying off topic, I know NSF is is there a video in the works of that catches the audio of the hot staging ring sonic boom?
Eh,
I don't know.
can I leak? Yes.
Okay.
You can actually hear on the stream. I went back. I did not realize that was the sonic boom of the hot staging ring, but you can hear it.
Chris is accusing you of leaking in chat. Bideford, another very regular name around here, gifted 5 red team memberships. So thank you very much, Bideford. But with this, for people who may just be joining us, Sawyer, can you walk us through the events that we're expecting to see in the next 15 minutes now that we are getting very close to the launch of Europa Clipper?
Absolutely, yes. As you just heard, the fuel load is continuing here as we now get the stage 2 liquid oxygen load underway. The RP1, rocket propellant 1, the refined kerosene, and liquid oxygen are currently being loaded into the 3 cores that you see on the screen there in the middle. That will then continue to fill up, leading up to the filling of stage 1 RP1 at about 6.5 minutes to go. Just before that, they will start chilling down the 27 Merlin 1D engines on those first stage cores to prep them for flight. About 4.5 minutes before is when the strongback, the kind of metal structure that is attached to the rocket, will lean back a whopping 1.8 degrees, or it'll throw back completely at launch. The rest of the fueling should finish up about 3 minutes and 2 minutes before launch for everything entering startup at T-minus 1 minute. That's also when all the tanks are pressurized to flight levels, and hopefully T-minus 45 seconds, we get that go for launch.
Yes, let's cross our fingers. But again, in case they do have to stand down from today's launch attempt for whatever reason, could be hardware, could be weather, even though weather looks absolutely phenomenal. There are many backup launch opportunities about every day. I think at the same time, they have the same 15-second window. So, and that goes through November 6th. So they
It goes back by
thankfully have,
just a couple of minutes each day.
yeah. Then I just want to read this message. Texas Taterbug in chat. Please reach out to shop@nasaspaceflight.com. They will be able to help you through that. But thank you for bringing that to our attention. Anyway, going through some more questions. Fake Blood is wondering, could Starship send this directly to Jupiter without gravity assists? Alex, do we know the answer to that?
Well, without refueling, no. Without refueling, in fact, Starship will not be able to launch anything beyond the Earth. You will need to refuel it, and in such a case, then yes, it will be able to send Europa Clipper directly to Jupiter. But you will need a bunch of refueling trips, by the way, because it's a deep space mission. It is true that it is only 6 tons. I'm saying only because Starship can launch a lot more than 6, right? But yeah, essentially when you refuel in orbit, you add up a little bit more propellant, and that kind of resets the whole equation, right, of delta V. You can get a bit more oomph. It's essentially just like when you are on a road trip, you stop for more gas, and now you can go farther, right? Similar thing here as well. The only problem is that, you know, every trip that you go up and refuel Starship, you don't refuel the entire Starship. You just fill up a little bit the tank. And so similarly, if you do a road trip and you go for gas and you just fill a little bit of the tank, that can get you a little bit further, but not the entire way. So you will need a lot of propellant refuelings for Starship in order to be able to reach Jupiter in one go with Europa Clipper. But it could. Emphasis on could. You need the refuelings.
Yeah. Let's see. Nigel, gifting 5 red team memberships. Thank you very much. Amanda with the super chat saying, "What planet/star system is SpaceX most interested in exploring, and which shows most promise for humanity?" Well, for SpaceX, I think it's obviously Mars. Like, they were founded with the goal of colonizing Mars, and that probably is the most interesting for humanity, given it's the most Earth-like. Flawed Perspective with the super chat saying, "Been waiting for this launch since it was first proposed. Go Clipper. Just a small amount for camera support." Well, thank you very much, Flawed Perspective. Tashia with the $2 super chat. Thank you very much. Jim becoming a new member, as did Flavius. Welcome to our membership program. Then ground umbilical carrier plates saying, "Hey Alex, they caught a booster." They did indeed catch a booster.
They caught a booster, yeah. This is sort of like an inside joke. Yesterday, after the launch stream was done, a few hours later, we saw booster 12 being put back on the OLM at Starbase. And so we went on a impromptu Raptor side chat, so to speak, right? And we're all talking to each other and be like, caught a booster!
And then Nosecone Jail with the super chat saying, "With the flight of IFT-5 and incredible frequency of Falcon launches, how goes the narrative of FAA persecuting SpaceX?" I don't know if we want to get into that. The FAA works with SpaceX, and they're great partners. But thank you for your support. Wilbo Baggins with 10 more gifted Red Team memberships. Thank you very much, Wilbo. Today you have been insane and awesome. Thank you. Apocalypse Cow saying, gifting 5 Red Team memberships, and then David with the store message saying, "More shirts, more better. Thank you for all you do, NSF." Well, thank you. I hope you enjoy the shirts that you got. Anyway, now to some more.
Can we
guys.
appreciate for a second this wide view of 39A? Because there's a Starship Tower there. A lot of people are seemingly unaware that SpaceX built that Starship Tower here at 39A. How bonkers will it be when they start catching there, right? We saw yesterday that catch at Starbase. I cannot wait until we see that here in Florida.
Yeah, and it's probably a ways out, but still extremely exciting for sure. It's even just the thought of it. Let's see. Steven wondering how many times have these boosters flown. Sawyer, can you, for those who may just be joining us, can you go through the launch history again of each of the cores?
Yep, definitely. So the center core 1089 is brand new. This is a one and done booster. It's its only flight. Whereas the side cores have been Falcon Heavy staples of recent time. You have B1064 and B1065 beginning their life on USSF 41, which that was the mission that was heard and not seen for the one time it was foggy here and not Vandy. USSF 67, Jupiter 3, Echostar 24, which is one mission, by the way. Psyche, USSF 52, which was the secret military space plane 37B, and Europa Clipper.
Scientific questioning that we had that led us to believe that there was water.
Flights, unfortunately.
Yeah, stripped of all their landing legs, their grid fins, their RCS thrusters to end up...
Spacecraft on internal power.
There's a good call out from SpaceX saying spacecraft has transitioned to internal power. So now instead of using power supplied by the ground, it is on its internal power, which will stay on until either a launch abort or until it is deployed and those solar panels start generating power. Um, Here's an interesting question from Amanda that just came in a super chat. What planet/star system is NASA most interested in exploring, and which shows the most promise for humanity? Sawyer, what? Oh, I think Sawyer just dipped out. Alex, what is your
Yeah, he needs to head off. Well, NASA is right now with the Artemis program, right, working on getting back to the moon. We'll be with Starship as well, because they contracted the services for the lunar lander to SpaceX.
Center core RP1 load is complete.
There you go. We're gonna hear also as well the side boosters later. But the moon first and foremost, but also long term to Mars, and then they say beyond. We don't really know what beyond means, right? It's also sort of like SpaceX. They have Mars as the end goal. Well, not the end goal, but like the main goal for them, right? But after that, we don't really know. Wine Shotwell has said many times that she wants to go to other planets and even star systems, but although everybody knows that's very very far down to the future. As to most promise, I really don't know, to be fair. That will be a long debate, probably more suitable for the Flame Trench show on Friday.
Yeah. I think it's fair to say NASA is very interested in our star system, the solar system.
TY RP1 load is complete.
There you go, and then the MY will be in a few seconds.
Yeah, let's wait for that call out. And we're also coming up on that engine chill. Alex, what is the engine chill?
Yeah, during the engine chill, they condition the engines. You know, there's 27 engines on that rocket. All of those engines run on liquid oxygen and RP1 kerosene, and that liquid oxygen is very cold. There you go. That's the engine chill having started, and that liquid oxygen is very cold. The engines are an ambient temperature, whatever the temperature is right now in Florida, and so they need to get conditioned for that action, for that liquid oxygen flowing through the engine. Even though a lot of people think engines, rocket engines are really, really hot, they are hot on the lower end. What comes from above
NY
to
RP1
those
load
engines,
is complete.
there you go. All three boosters now have RP1 load on them, fully complete. But the engine is hot on the bottom and very cold on the top, because all of the stuff that comes from the tanks is very cold, and so that's why they need to be conditioned for propellant. And yeah, that's thank you, Kevin. He just pinged me in the back channel that this is the conditions in Florida. As you can see, 26 degrees Celsius. That is not good for an engine to go from that temperature to nearly minus 200 Celsius. So that's a lot of a temperature difference. You don't want that on your engine, and so that's why they condition them for flight.
Yeah. There's a large temperature delta between that liquid oxygen and Florida. Even though if Max was in Florida, he'd probably be cold right now. Anyway, moving on to some of your guys' more questions as we get very close to launch. But first, I want to shout out Michael, who just did a $500 tip to tips.nasaspaceflight.com, saying, was able to be at Starbase yesterday to watch, still in shock. Thank you for everything you do to bring us amazing coverage of all the space stuff. Go NSF, go SpaceX, go Europa Clipper. Michael, thank you so much. I'm very jealous that you got to witness that amazing event that happened yesterday. But seriously, that support is what allows us to have all of the stuff in Boca to bring those views, and all the stuff at Cape to bring you the views that we're showing now. So,
yep.
Seriously,
look at that.
Thank you very much.
Is starting.
There we go. That's great news.
Yeah. Some more support. Adam with the super chat. Thank you, Adam. 9A Builder with the $10 super chat saying, you may have spoken about this before, but I thought would ask, do you believe that a Tesla robot will be the first biped to walk on Mars? And if so, What tasks do you think you'd be able to accomplish? I have no idea.
Yeah, that's
definitely
probably. Go ahead, Trevor.
I definitely see Elon wanting to put some Optimus
Exactly.
robots on Mars, but who knows? That's so far out.
Yeah, far down the line.
NY lock slot is complete.
There we go. JBS Travel says, "Hi Barbie." I'm assuming that's a reference. I don't get, but thank you for your support. Caroline with the super chat saying, "Could Starship launch Europa Clipper with a chunky boost stage for a direct flight?" Yeah, probably if there was like a third kick stage.
NLM, it's the LD on the countdown.net with a final status check.
Yes, LD, this is NLM on countdown 1, NASA spacecraft, and the NASA team is go for launch pending resolution of the anomaly.
Copy. Go pending outbrief of the issue being discussed on the anomaly net.
Affirmative.
That sounds like that anomaly is spacecraft side, right? Given it's NASA's.
There might be, yeah. That was. Yeah, because that was from
Center
the
core
from
lock
the
slot is
NASA
complete.
side. There we go. All first stage boosters are now completely loaded with propellant. Second stage still going for a few more seconds here on the liquid oxygen load.
That's what we want to hear. Let's just cross our fingers that they resolve whatever that anomaly is.
Stage 2 lock slot is complete.
Okay, Falcon Heavy is fully loaded with propellant. One of the things that apparently they are looking is some temperatures on the second stage. It seems to be with a rocket rather than with a spacecraft.
Interesting.
Yeah, Falcon Heavy is currently fully loaded with propellants. We'll see what they say.
Yeah, we should be getting that call out very soon. Right, in 30 seconds is when Falcon Heavy will enter startup. So that's when it will take control of its countdown.
Ground gas closeouts.
From the ground-based computers, and then at T-minus 45 seconds is when we'll hopefully get that go for launch call from the launch director, which I would imagine is when we would not be go for launch if that anomaly has not been resolved yet. Coming up on startup. Should be hearing that call out.
Falcon Heavy is in startup.
There it is. And there you could see a second ago the water tower spraying a bit. That is, of course, nominal as always.
SpaceX launch director is go for launch.
They are go for launch.
There we go.
Good to hear.
Oof.
So I'm guessing then that anomaly has been resolved. So we'll
Hopefully 30 seconds
see
and counting.
those engines start igniting here in about 20 seconds. They will do that staggered ignition before lifting off at T0. We should be able to see that center core throttle down pretty much immediately
15 seconds and counting.
as it comes off the pad, so pay attention to that.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ignition, liftoff.
Vehicle is pitching downrange. Engine chamber pressures are nominal. Power and telemetry nominal. Falcon Heavy is supersonic. Max Q.
There we have it, a successful liftoff of the Europa Clipper mission with some phenomenal audio. That was awesome to listen to. Booster engine cutoff is coming up in just about 1 minute and 15 seconds at T plus 3 minutes and 3 seconds, with separation a couple minutes after. But that first stage, the center core, will continue burning until T plus 4 minutes and 2 seconds. So a very, very long burn of that center core.
It's gonna be a long booster burn.
Yeah. It's a bummer NASA's not giving us telemetry.
Are those sounds still from like the rocket engines?
Yes.
I remember when I was there, you could hear the rocket engines still like T plus 5 minutes.
Yeah. I remember that too. Or I definitely noticed that with Starship too. It just like never the sound just never went away. It was so awesome.
Should be coming up on that booster engine cutoff and separation.
MVAC is chilling.
Just like they did on the first stage engines, they are chilling that second stage engine, but now pay attention to those two side cores. We'll see those engines shut down in kind of that staggered pattern as we see on Falcon, and then we'll see those two side cores separate and fall back to the ocean. Again, there is no recovery
Booster
attempt
engine cutoff.
of those.
Side booster separation confirmed.
There they go. Just what you want to see. So
Thank
now,
you for your service.
Now this is basically a Falcon 9 mission, and that center core will begin throttling up to help minimize gravity losses now that it's just it. So this will continue burning for about 30 more seconds, which, I mean, this is such a crazy long burn for Falcon. Falcon generally has very short burns. Yeah, this will happen in the same manner as Falcon 9 and as those side cores just shut down on that staggered pattern to help minimize transients. And then shortly after that, the vehicle will have the stages separate, and then the second stage will begin its burn, which will be on the shorter end.
Stage separation confirmed.
There we have it. Thank you for your service, Center Core.
It's a very, very honorable way to go out to launch such an incredible mission like it is Europa Clipper.
NYPY FTS has saved.
As expected, those side boosters now saved. There you go, the fairing separation coming up.
Separation confirmed.
There we go. Europa Clipper is in the vacuum
And
of
back ramp to
space.
full thrust.
And as I was saying, this will actually be a pretty short MVAC burn for now. It's only about 3.5 minutes. Then later, they will be doing another very long burn, which will be about a 3-minute burn at T plus 47 minutes and 40 seconds.
Can I just say really quick? Wow. I mean, it may not be Starship, but boy, does it give Starship a run for its money. Holy smokes, that one, the rumble today was absolutely unbelievable. Super crisp skies, and I was next to my dad. His pants were actually shaking.
Yeah. Yeah, that launch audio was that was very good.
Amazing work also by Julia on that too. Shout out to her.
Yeah. Yeah, so now this will continue on very much like your typical Falcon 9 mission, with this burn ending at T plus 7 minutes and 53 seconds.
Center core FTS has saved.
Again, all three of those cores were expended. There will be no recovery attempts on any of them, but those two fairings that we saw jettison were or will be recovered about just over 2,000 kilometers downrange by Go Cosmos.
Had the trip to go out there, right?
Yeah.
Also working on getting some photos edited for you. I'm sure Julia will do the same.
Oh yeah, and in the background as well, I believe we are working on replays of that launch. So stay tuned.
Indeed.
Stage 2 FTS is safed.
Arby's may have the meats, but NSF has the views.
We do have the views.
Less than 1 minute.
We will be staying live through payload deploy, by the way. Since this is such an exciting mission, we want to see it through to the other side when it is deployed. Not too long from now. It's about 50 minutes until payload deploy. A little over. During that time, we'll of course show some replays of launch, including audio, and answer more of your guys' questions. So stick
We'll be
around.
hearing terminal guidance soon.
Stage 2 is in terminal guidance.
There you go.
Awesome.
People
So, yes.
obviously asking about the ice. That ice is normal, by the way. You'll see a lot more later when it tries to relight for the second burn.
Yeah. Yeah, Sawyer, how was launch
Seco.
compared to previous Falcon Heavies?
I don't know why this one had that extra bass to it today. The rumble on it was spectacular, and this is one of the clearest days we've had. It's, I think, quite appropriate given that the Sidecore's first flight, USSF 44, was fogged out, and I think I saw it for maybe 3 total seconds of launch, and also put on a great audio show. But this one not only put on an audio show, but the visuals, clear skies all the way through, up to separation. I mean, this is up there as one of the prettiest and one of the loudest I've seen.
Yeah.
Nominal orbit insertion.
There we
That's
go.
exactly what we want to hear. Nominal orbital insertion. So this is again just the transfer orbit. They have not done that escape burn yet. That escape burn we will stay live for and is in about 40 minutes from now.
Yeah, and to address again the ice thing, the MVAC engine has this little pipe sticking out of the side. That little pipe is normal to be venting because that's what it's called, a bleed line. As the engine operates, whatever sort of like that's where some of the oxygen comes out to control the pressures inside of the engine. And so that oxygen, as it exits that pipe, solidifies into that ice, and that's what you see there accumulating on some parts of the engine. Normally, seeing some ice, that little pieces of ice, that's normal. What we saw, for example, on the Starlink 9-3 mission back in July, that was not normal. There was a lot more oxygen, ice being accumulated on the MVAC. But as you saw today, that was normal orbital insertion, and hopefully we get a second burn later down the line as well. See, normal engine.
Awesome. Well, again, just a reminder, we will be staying live throughout payload separation. So until then, there are a lot of people to thank. There's a lot more support that came in during launch and just before launch. Starting with Andy becoming a Capcom member. That means you got access to our awesome Discord server. So go in, say hello, view all the channels, see all the awesome space talk going on. Say hi to us. Spaceman04 gifted a Red Team membership. Thank you very much, Spaceman. Joel with a $2 super chat. Casualty Bag saying, let's light this candle. SpaceX, Godspeed Europa Clipper. May the force be with you, NSF and nerds and friends. Well, thank you. Joel with another gifting another Red Team membership. Thank you. Alex with a $10, a different Alex with a $10 super chat saying, love the stream. I got up at 4:45 Mountain to watch Starship yesterday, and the adrenaline is still somewhat flowing. Godspeed Europa. Yeah, it was an early day for us in Mountain Time for sure. Um, Joel with another super chat saying, "Is Falcon Heavy fairing made of composites material, and is it also reusable?" Sawyer, uh, what is Falcon Heavy's fairing made of? And yes, it is reusable, right?
I think that's an Alex question.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. It is a honeycomb aluminum structure with composites. So essentially, you have carbon fiber and aluminum. Normally, other rockets do it differently, and that's why they seem to be a little more floppy. If you saw the recent replays, sort of from ULA of the Vulcan launch, you can see the fairing separation. It's a lot more floppy. That's because it's like different and thinner as well, different materials. But Falcon 9 uses that composite aluminum honeycomb structure for the fairings, and yeah, it is reusable. They have reused, I think, over 250 fairing halves already. Like, they have reused a bunch of them, and these for this mission are, of course, being at least recovered. We don't know if they may be reflown in the future. We hope so, right? And they are being recovered by Go Cosmos. It's their one of their temporary fairing recovery vessels, because one of the other ships for fairing recovery, Bob, is currently undergoing maintenance, essentially. But yeah. Unfortunately, I saw someone else asking for coverage of the fairing re-entry and landing. Unfortunately, we don't have any footage of that, and it's also very far away to send anybody to that place. So yeah, it also takes a long time to get to the ground because it uses parachutes. It surfs through the atmosphere using thrusters, but then it pops out a parachute, and then it takes like 20-30 minutes because it goes very slow. That's the whole point of the parachute, to slow down the descent, and it descends very, very slowly. It takes 20-30 minutes to get to the ocean.
Yeah. Let's see. Niles GK with a super chat. Thank you very much. Kiki, not Kiko, but Kiki, saying good luck from Germany. Kiki and Sasha. Well, thank you very much. Hopefully, you enjoyed launch. Wilbo with 100 pound super chat. His literally, I think this is his 10th or 11th piece of support today, saying almost 500 pounds. Wilbo, just thank you. That's you've been incredible today. Thank you. A super chat. You guys have the best voices ever. Thank you. Wilbo Baggins now with gifting a red team membership. Wilbo, thank you. You're just always here today. Rox0909 gifting 5 red team memberships. And then Rocket Fella saying, "Hi, Bob." Hello, Bob. I know that's not the joke from the series. I do actually get that reference. And then Jerwa, another very regular name we see around here. The empty pad used to be DOS's favorite view, but now I wonder if the briefly empty pad is better.
Pad with a booster pack is cool, right?
That's a brilliant point.
Can we need to get official confirmation from DOS as to if his new favorite view is the pad with a booster cot.
One view that we're definitely not getting tired of is that, like the one from Sawyer, as you can see there, of a launch. We really like launches, right?
I do particularly like that view, yes. There's just a couple shots for you. I'll have a whole bunch for Membies coming up, but just a little teaser for everyone as we get the video replays pulled of just some of the awesome shots. Again, super crisp, super clear today. It was absolutely stunning.
Yeah. Very good shot, Sawyer. Thank you. And there we have...
Kidding me? My pleasure. That's what I'm here for. I live for this stuff. So to be able to share it with everyone, I mean, come on, this is the best.
And there we have that empty pad. 39A.
And the smoke that... Sorry, go ahead.
No, 39A will now be getting prepared for its next mission. SpaceX... Falcon Heavy is kind of a pain for SpaceX in the sense that it takes a long time to convert to and from Falcon Heavy. But let's see, its next mission, is it?
CRS-31.
Yeah, CRS-31.
Yep. And just to get ahead of the questions, because I know people will ask about that smoke, that is normal smoke. They are burning off excess TTEB. TTEB is the fluid that is used to jumpstart the engines, essentially, at engine ignition. Falcon Heavy uses 27 Merlin engines, so they need a lot of TTEB and some of their remains on the lines that go to the launch mountain. So they need to burn off the excess TTEB that remains on the lines. So that's what you see there. That's the smoke. It's actually gonna take place for a long time because it's a slow burn that they do there, but it's completely nominal.
Yep. Always good to point out. But while we have shots from Julia, since it's not just Sawyer out in the field today. So awesome launch shot from her. Thank you, Julia. Let's see. Alex, while we wait for some replays, which I think are almost ready, I think it's worth talking a little bit about SpaceX's launch cadence and what other missions are coming up, because they're not done for today, are they?
No, they are not. They have 2 Starlink missions later this evening, or rather tomorrow, very, very early morning. One here from the Cape, Starlink Group 10-10, and then another one from Vandenberg, Starlink Group 9-7. So 2 more launches coming up, and then 2.5 days after the Starlink Group 10-10 mission, they're going to be launching another mission. I believe it is 819. That'll carry Starlink direct-to-cell satellites, by the way. And then after that, another 2 days after that, they have another launch, which is a Starlink 661. Also from the Cape, from Slick 40. They're trying to get, those turnaround times as short as possible, but definitely quite a comeback for SpaceX after those anomalies in the third quarter. And, bunch of other customer missions as well on tap for the rest of the year. I believe up to 15 customer missions. You can read a lot more about this on my latest article on NSF's news site.
Yeah. That article, by the way, is great. Alex does one of these basically every quarter. Every quarter, actually, not basically, where he just covers the records that SpaceX had, how many launches they had, just goes over everything, and talks about what we're expecting in the next quarter. And they're always very insightful because SpaceX just does not stop. So would recommend going and reading that.
I remember we used to do them like every year, but SpaceX started launching so much that it was like, let's do it every quarter. Maybe in the future it'll be like every month or something, and we will need like 10 different writers by the time they're launching a bunch of times every single day.
Yeah. And I've seen a couple people asking in chat. They're like, 2.5 days between launches. That seems hard. Can Slick 40 handle that? And the answer is probably. Slick 40's quickest turnaround to date is 2 days, 19 hours, and 40 minutes, which I believe, I don't remember which 2 launches that was between. It doesn't matter. So, yes, I
You're
think
talking about the turnaround time for Slick 40?
Yeah, like
between SES-24 and Starlink Group 10-2.
There you go. Thank you. So yes, SpaceX could support missions in that quick of succession. However, it's certainly not a given. Anyway, going on to some more support, as you guys have just been incredibly generous today. So really, thank you. Plutonium 239 with the $10 super chat saying, do you think there could be alien life forms such as fish or bacteria on Europa? That's what this mission is hoping to, is hoping to answer. Are there the building blocks for this? So far, we think it's possible, but we want to know if all of the building blocks are there. So we'll see.
I'd say it's more likely that if we find any sort of life form, it'll be closer to a bacteria than, I don't know, like a big giant octopus or something like that.
Yeah. Llama with a $50 super chat saying it would be so cool to have the cameras rolling when the side boosters slam into the ocean. Thanks for the amazing coverage yesterday. Yeah, that would be pretty cool, but I sadly don't think SpaceX will ever give us that. Then Llama again gifting 5 Red Team memberships. So thank you very much for your support, Llama. And if you got one of those, make sure you thank Llama in chat. And then Nyroxis became a Red Team member. Welcome to our Red Team. Let's see. Going to some more of your guys' questions. Here's a interesting one from Richie, who's wondering, is trajectory manually operated until the point of spacecraft separation? Alex, that is all completely autonomous.
Yeah, this is all autonomous, even up to the countdown when they say launch auto sequence has started at T-minus 50 minutes on Falcon Heavy. All of those procedures during the countdown are automated, all of them. Obviously, they can still manually, abort until T-minus 10 seconds, but, it is all automated. There's no manual intervention there.
Yeah, which we can now witness again with some replays. I believe we have a bunch of replays ready. Let's see. Man,
there it
I'll never
goes.
get sick of Falcon Heavy. It's such a cool rocket. Is this tracking cam? No. Its exhaust is just so cool. Ah, it is tracking. That audio just sounds so good.
Falcon Heavy has such an aesthetic, like, I don't know, those 3 cores, those 3 boosters strapped together. It's just something different that you don't get with a single stick rocket.
Yeah, between Delta IV Heavy and Falcon Heavy, they certainly are some of the coolest looking launches.
And they both put on such different shows. Did for Delta IV Heavy put on such different shows with the uh, just the 3 engines versus the 27. They all have such unique power still.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, that's actually an interesting thing to talk about. What are, like, when you're viewing the launches, since you've
Audio.
obviously seen. Oh.
Look at that.
Love it.
Yeah.
What were you asking, by the way, Trevor?
No, since you've seen a bunch of Delta IV Heavies and Falcon Heavies, how different are they? Since to watch launch or listen to launch, since obviously one's hydrogen, one's RP1, much more thrust on Falcon Heavy. I'm just curious, what is it like?
I mean, they're very different. This one, I always like to say that Delta IV Heavy had the best sound. It absolutely sounded the best. It enveloped you completely, but you never really felt it. This is one where it may not be as loud as Delta IV Heavy, but my gosh, do you feel it? I think that's the biggest difference.
Really, Delta IV Heavy was louder than Falcon. I would
Well, it's
not
a
have guessed
different
that.
kind of loud. One of them, it's more of a hit you in the chest kind of feel for Falcon Heavy, whereas Delta IV Heavy was more, it enveloped you. All you could feel and hear around you was just sound, whereas this one is like a chest punch of boom. Here's I'm here versus I'm all around you. I don't know if that makes any sense at all to try and explain.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm kind of bummed I'll never get to see Delta IV Heavy fly, but there'll be cool rockets in the future.
I'm just updating my spreadsheets right now, and with this, now we have 3 boosters that have been expended. SpaceX has a fleet of 15 Falcon boosters. I know a lot of people always asked us about, what's the size of the fleet of the Falcon boosters, right? Right now, 15.
Awesome. Well, just some more support while we wait for the escape burn, which is coming up here in about 20 minutes, and then a little under 20 minutes, and then deployment. Um, there's been some more very generous support that I want to make sure I hit. Mr. Blonde with the super chat saying, was the decision to use Falcon Heavy driven by time or cost? Superb coverage as always. I'm a happy pad rat. I think it's probably a combination of both, where not only was it 15 times cheaper, but also who knows if there's going to be an SLS available for this mission. I mean, there certainly isn't one now, which is when they wanted to launch it. But even, in 3-4 years, will there be? Very possibly not. Riku with a $55 super chat saying, life might not even be related to our tree of life. We'd be looking for bacterial analogs, though if we do find something related to our tree of life, it's a major game changer. Yeah, no kidding. I don't even know which of those would be more exciting if they are separate or related. Both would be incredible. Wilbo Baggins with 10 more gifted Red Team memberships. Wilbo, thank you. You are incredible. Let's see. Sorry, looking for some more of your guys' questions. Here's an interesting one, Sawyer. How long until the Clipper is turned on and we know it's working?
I mean, they're going to be deploying the solar panels a couple hours after launch. It's a long process for the solar panel deploy, especially because these solar panels are absolutely massive, chunky to say the least, because they need to be able to produce power from the less sunlight that you get all the way out at Jupiter. They're going to do that, and then usually the setup process to get everything checked out, up and running, and functional could take months until everything is really ready to go. And again, this has a 6-year journey, so it has some time to get everything conditioned and ready.
Right. Indeed. Oh, I always love this shot. provided to us from NASA. And you can immediately see that center core starting to throttle down. And very
Look at that power on the pad. It's crazy.
Let's see. I think we also have another streak shot from our very own Sawyer.
Who's that guy?
Yeah, I don't know. See some dude obsessed with puns. I don't know. Let's see.
Got to give Kevin and Jay a little bit of time. There's still replays. People want to see the video first.
I have a little bit of information though. Apparently this is the first time Falcon 9, or well, Falcon in general, not the second stage, is using TDRS to communicate with its telemetry. Normally it uses ground stations only. It is using the NASA's TDRS communications, and there you can see right now it's using ground control, ground stations in Cape Town in Southern Africa, but you know, they are actually going to be using the TDRS communications that stands, I think, telemetry relay and satellite system, essentially, and data relay satellite system. And so that is a first for Falcon, because that is interesting that they're using that. They did not use that on any previous missions. Dragon does use TDRS, but Falcon doesn't until today.
That is cool. Just like this shot that we're looking at from Sawyer. Good work, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's one of those where it's a little trickier for those who don't know during the daytime, because you just leave the shutter open. Problem is, though, you know, the sun is a thing. The sun is a deadly laser. So it's you have to have a special filter on top of it called a neutral density filter and time the shot out. That is a 90-second exposure.
Very nice.
For all the camera geeks out there.
Cool. Let's see. Yeah, TDRS is tracking and data relay satellite. I see some people asking in chat.
Even Starship used that before Falcon. Starship also uses TDRS, or at least it used that on Flight 4, because we heard from the callouts that they were using TDRS apart from Starlink, because we also saw, you know, it uses Starlink. But yeah, so that's quite interesting.
Right. Let's see. Oh my gosh. Wilbo with another 10 gifted Red Team memberships. Thank you, Wilbo. And then D. Morsef became a PadRad member. Welcome to PadRad.
Is that what I'm going to have to name my firstborn son at this rate? Thank you.
Cool. Yeah. Let's see. Again, if you guys have any questions, we'll be here for a little bit until payload deploy, which is about half an hour from now. Let's see. For Europa. I don't think so. It's just going to Europa, right?
Sorry, I was in a bit of a Starlink handover there. That's its main mission. I mean, there'll be obviously ending its life to Ganymede, and it will cross into Io's, Callisto's, and Ganymede's orbits. But its main flight is Europa, and that's what Juice is for. Juice is for the others.
Very cool. Here's a question from even Fleet Cam has good audio.
I'm sure there's some clams visible under the water there.
Here's a good question for Alex from Luke. He's wondering, I noticed that if you look at MVAC engine, the insulation appears to balloon out, but it appears to be sucked against the engine from another view. What's with that? So what is going on with the insulation on the MVAC engine?
Yeah, the insulation covers, all of the turbo machinery on the rocket engine, on the MVAC engine. And so it's very normal for it to sort of like pulse every now and then. It also gets hit by the RCS thrusters at the aft end of the second stage. The second stage has like a few aft thrusters on the aft end that are very close to the MVAC engine. So it gets, different kind of interactions from the engine itself that it's covering. The engine, obviously, when it's working, especially, right? When it's working, you have a bunch of things going on there. So you have cold parts, hot parts, you have a bunch of things going on there. So you will see certain thermal differences, and there's also like relief valves here and there that will pop up a bit the insulation. So that's why you see that different kind of behavior. Of course, when you get to something like what happened on Starlink Group 9-3, on that mission, the behavior was completely much more different and much wildly abnormal, right? It not only popped up, right? It also seemed to even break off, right? That insulation. And so because of whatever forces happened there with that sense line being the culprit there of that leak. And so it's normal, right? When you see a few inflating a little bit on other places, it deflates. It kind of depends on which side of the engine you look at. And then again, also the thrusters sometimes interact with the insulation as well. So yeah.
Awesome. The doctor's wondering, what have I missed? I just got home from work. Just the liftoff of Falcon Heavy. No biggie.
You still are
the
on
greatest
time for
science
the
missions
second.
too. Yeah, there's still time for the second stage. It's just one of the greatest science missions that NASA's launched in years to study one of the moons of Jupiter. No biggie.
And depending how long you were at work, a booster catch, but nothing big. Hober is wondering, will they launch another soon? I'm assuming by another you mean another rocket in general. And the answer is yes. Starlink 1010 is 12 hours from now. And then 3 hours after that, they have another mission. So, yes, they will be launching soon.
As for Falcon Heavy, as to whether they'll launch another one soon or not, they have 3 missions next year. I believe one of them is for the Department of Defense, a USSF mission, but definitely more Falcon Heavies going up soon.
MVAC chill.
Yeah. Oh.
And that call out is that the MVAC engine is now getting ready for that relight by being, chill down. That is when they flow a little bit of liquid oxygen through. And maybe in one of these views, maybe they're gonna come back to the vehicle views. If they come back to the vehicle views, you'll see a lot more venting out of that engine. That is completely normal. That's part of the process of the engine chill. They also will fire thrusters at the back. Again, those RCS thrusters, those reaction control system thrusters, they will fire to settle down the propellants because they are in 0G right now, right? So they will be floating around. But before the engine needs to run, they need that propellant to be at the bottom of the tank. So they're going to be settling down as well, that propellant.
Right, very.
Look at that power on the pad. It's crazy.
Very.
Look at that. What power on the pad. What are you playing, Kevin? It's crazy.
Yeah, I thought that was on my end. I'm like, where is that coming from?
Oh my goodness.
That sounds like a clip rather than live.
Yeah, that's from Chris B, who posted that in the back channel, because he apparently clipped a part of Starbase live. They are now removing the flight termination system on booster 12 after its landing, and he clipped that as I was saying. Look at all that power on this broadcast because we were covering the replay of Falcon Heavy launching from 39A.
So you had a Clipper during Clipper. Got it.
Exactly. Yeah, I was clipped on Europa Clipper.
Cool. Yeah, I actually have seen a few people talking about something else that SpaceX is doing this week that we haven't mentioned thus far, which is they're also bringing back 4 humans.
Yep.
The Crew 8 undocking, I believe we don't actually have a new date for it. They're waiting for some weather conditions to improve, but Crew 8 they'll bring those Crew 8 astronauts home, and then they'll relocate Crew 9. I believe they're going to move it from the forward port to the zenith port.
Yep, 5 minutes from relight of the MVAC engine.
Awesome. Let's see. While we wait for that engine relight, I have some more people to thank. Demorsef gifting 5 red team memberships, and then Wilbo Baggins gifting another 10. So thank you. Oh no, it was not 10 gifted memberships. Sorry, it's another super chat. Thank you, Wilbo. I just cannot read at this point, apparently. And then Hayden Hawkins became a Capcom member. Welcome to our member Discord. Say hello to all of us. Drew Nar with the super chat saying for Wilbo. Then someone became a Padrad member. And then Casualty Bag with the super chat saying, when Europa Clipper does find life near thermal vents, that's a bold when. What name do we give the first finding? I have no idea.
Also, Europa will not be able to go to the thermal vents, just to be clear.
Yeah.
Europa Clipper will only fly by around Europa. It'll pass close to Europa, then fly out again. Then it'll come back again around, right? And fly past Europa. And, multiple times it'll do that. I believe up to 20 more or more times than that, right? But every single pass, it'll be able to get close enough to observe a bunch of stuff from Europa Clipper, including things like, getting to know what is coming out of that water, right? Because we were talking before about how the ice on Europa, it's sort of like the plate tectonics here on Earth. Oh, more MVAC chill, okay. And so when you have that tectonics, you mean that you will have some of that water coming out from deep in the ocean up into the surface, and so you can gather what's going on inside by knowing what's coming out and seeing what's out. If you say, I don't know, like carbon dioxide and stuff like that, like the usual materials that life normally produces, that will be an interesting sign, but it will not go to the thermal vents. Those are very deep under the ice. We will need, like, I don't know, Europa sub or something like that.
Yeah.
Europa lander, Europa sub.
A helicopter. Now we need a submarine.
Exactly, right? Oh boy, I cannot wait until we actually get to, to build a submarine on Europa.
Yeah. And then Yehuda Burger saying, does the name Europe have anything to do with Europe or the European continent? No, it's named after the moon around Jupiter, Europa. Where that name comes from, I have no idea.
I believe it's from the Greek mythology.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, it was apparently some Phoenician princess in the Greek mythology. That's why the others are like Ganymede. Oh boy, Ganymede. There you go. You have Io, and you have also Calixto.
Callisto, yeah.
Yeah, which are also mythology related.
When in doubt, it's usually Greek or Roman myth. Although it could be worse. Remember the Juno mission? That's Jupiter's wife. So basically sent
Yeah.
Jupiter's wife to go take pictures of it and spy on it. Nothing there that's unusual.
Anyways, we should be coming up 1 minute to that MVAC reline, sending Europa Clipper into interplanetary space. I believe it is about 3 minutes in length, 3 minutes and 16 seconds, if I'm looking correctly at SpaceX's timeline.
Yeah.
Hopefully we get some views from
Which is a
SpaceX.
very long burn. I mean, the Starlink missions for its circularization burn, where obviously this is an escape burn, so not super comparable. It's like a second, and this is 180, 100, almost 200 seconds. Anyway, while we wait, Jeffrey became a PadRed member. Welcome, Jeffrey. Hopefully you enjoy all of the photos and all of the other exclusive stuff that Chris uploads to the membership program for members.
And I just sent him a whole bunch of launch photos too. So
And
there's some
back
good stuff
ignition.
coming soon, and obviously,
Here we go.
There we can see that orbit raising. That blue line is getting higher. Again, this will be a long burn, so eventually this blue line will not even be around Earth anymore. It will be around the sun.
a reminder, this one will not go direct to Jupiter. Like you mentioned, this is going into a solar orbit, basically. It is going to use the gravity of Mars, and then again, a year later from Earth to get that gravity assist and help it swing round and get that extra velocity to make it out to Jupiter.
Right. There we have it. It's now in probably a MEO somewhere in there. With it continuing to raise its apogee, so its apogee is no more an apogee and becomes an apoapsis.
And just to address, we are only seeing the map because that's what we are being provided. And also because the coverage right now that they have in terms of signal from the second stage only comes through TDRS, and TDRS only gets data out of the second stage. Ground control, essentially the ground stations, they don't have any coverage right now of that, and those are the ones that handle the video from the second stage. So right now, even if we wanted to, we can't get any video out of the second stage, unfortunately.
Yeah. But all seems to be well with that burn, which will be going on for another couple of seconds. It should be ending at T plus 50 minutes and 56 seconds.
And just to put this in perspective, it is precisely thanks to TDRS that we are seeing at least some telemetry displayed on this map in the shape of this orbit being changed. Because otherwise, without TDRS, with no ground stations, this will occur in complete darkness, right, from any sort of communication. We will not be able to get any confirmation of this until after it has already happened. And so that is very important to mention as well here.
Right. Yeah, so any second now we should be getting confirmation of that engine shutdown. Should be now. Let's see.
MVAC engine cut off.
There we have it, and hopefully now within a couple seconds we get a nominal orbit callout. So there's the engine.
Finally. This might be because they have gotten video from the ground station.
Nominal orbit insertion.
There we have
There we
it.
go.
That's what we want to hear. So this is now in orbit around the sun on its way to Jupiter. Well, it's not deployed yet, so technically not quite on its way yet. But that deployment will be in 10 minutes at T plus 1 hour, 2 minutes, and 12 seconds. That 6,000 kilogram payload will be deployed and start its trek. It's several billion-mile trek to Jupiter's moon, Europa, where it will do very, very cool science. Yeah, there we have NASA's control room. Cool. Well, with this, let's go to a bit more support. Casualty Bags with a £10 super chat saying, do you think Starship could launch and catch up to Europa Clipper? That would be insane. No, as Alex was mentioning earlier, for Starship to go there would have to do a bunch of orbital refueling missions, which they're obviously just not ready for
not
quite
ready
yet.
Yeah.
Give them
maybe in a
few
couple of
months.
years.
Yeah, a few months until I bet they start getting a bit more serious about those plans now that this last flight yesterday went so well.
Yeah.
I
mean, once that's enabled, right, we may be able to see lots of much larger missions being sent to deep space. Speaking of deep space.
Wilbo Baggins with another super chat. Saying they're going
Again?
to go watch The Martian. Yeah. That is a good movie. Very good movie. So I hope you enjoy. And seriously, Wilbo, thank you for everything you've done today.
Call me crazy, but I think if they end up talking to Europa Clipper, it will not be at Goldstone. I know Kevin is doing that, but they are right now over Australia.
Okay, you're crazy. Oh, I mean, you wanted me to call you crazy, but
Yeah, there you go. Haha, see? Now you got it. It will probably be Australia first, and then as it rotates on its way out from Earth, then it'll switch to the one at Goldstone. He was showing the one at Goldstone on the Deep Space Network because it said Europa Clipper, but that'll probably be later down. But right after deployment, I'm mostly sure it's going to be from Australia, from Canberra.
Cool.
Might even be both, to be fair.
Yeah. And then Alex Gar asking, no Starlink signal. Yeah, so SpaceX does not have Starlink dishes, antennas on Falcon second stage. So it will not be able to communicate.
Yeah.
Hence...
This is an often misconception of Falcon. They don't use Starlink on Falcon 9 or Falcon Heavy. There's an exception to this. They have been running some experiments on the second stage, but those are experiments of Starlink antennas. Yeah.
Yep.
The thing with Starship is that the entire vehicle is experimental, right? So they can run Starlink as the main thing without problems. They still did use TDRS. Again, I was saying before, Starship used NASA's TDRS communications constellation to get data out of it. Precisely because you could have a Starlink outage, and you don't want to rely just on a single string kind of thing, right? That's very important for an experimental vehicle like Starship. More data, more better.
Yeah. And just more awesome. Let's see. We only have a few more minutes to go until Europa Clipper is deployed. So let's see if I can find a good question. Let's try to stump Alex. That's what everyone should try. Come up with the question that stumps Alejandro. Keith is wondering why no velocity or altitude data because NASA doesn't show that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um,
We show what we get. If we had gotten telemetry, we will have shown it. Unfortunately, we did not get that. So,
here's a pretty interesting question. Matt's Hawk is wondering, is the speed much higher now with this extra burn? Alex, how does the idea of speed work when you're changing reference frames?
well, it is higher definitely than with the previous one. Well, I don't know why you refer to the reference frames, but yeah, it is much higher now with this extra burn. But just like when you throw something up in the air and then it slows down and comes back down, right now, as you can see there, as it heads up into interplanetary space, it is slowing down because there's no engine running, right? However, that speed will not go to zero and then come back down. It's pushed, its velocity is so high up that even when it's, if you were in a hypothetical world here where you could go to infinity.
Flight nav MSA.
Oh.
Go ahead, nav MSA.
We received the orbital parameter message from SpaceX as expected after SECO 2, and we'll evaluate when we get data.
Copy, nav MSA. Thank you.
Okay. So, yeah, as I was saying,
flight activity.
Go.
It's going so fast that it will not come back down.
Would you like me to brief the post-separation expectations?
Yes, please go ahead.
So after separation from the launch vehicle, the autonomous behavior is going to begin. The earliest initial acquisition time will be after the TWITA warm-up completes, 5 minutes after separation. During that 5 minutes, we have some things that are happening in the launch behavior. Both of the digital sun sensors will be being turned on. The IMU will be initialized and the Earth proxy vector established. Then we will configure for radio transmission on LGA3, switch to RCB config 24. At that point, we will transition system modes to sys-launch post-step, and that's when we expect alarms to clear. All of this is happening in that 5 minutes when we are not in comm, when the tweet is still warming up. At that point, we'll vent and prime the propellant lines, and then the 5 minutes will be completed, and we could potentially start to get initial acquisition in that time between 5 minutes and 20 minutes. When we are looking for initial acquisition, we'll also be nulling our tip-off rates, completing a sun search, turning to the sun and putting the sun in the XY plane, and starting our rotation, the axis rotation, or our thermal roll. So once we have initial acquisition, we'll be looking to quickly establish where we're at in the launch behavior.
Copy activity, thank you. And for all stations, we have a couple other periodic points during the launch behavior where we'll have activity brief the next few steps so that we can all stay aware of what the spacecraft is doing. Telecom and DDM, 2 requests. Once we have separation and we are waiting for signal acquisition, Telecom, I would like you to be the reporter that we have carrier lock. And DDM, when you see a packet come down from the spacecraft, I would like you to report that on net too.
Copy.
Copy.
Okay.
Awesome.
Some chatter there of operations that they're going to be doing on the NASA side after Europa Clipper separates. And we have some sunlight. Look at that.
There's Clipper.
Just what we want.
Getting ready to deploy.
Yeah, about 2 minutes now from... Okay, not sure what that called.
I just want to remind you that in step 2-2 of the count-up procedure, at separation plus 1 minute, we have a briefing to the DSN and SSC to prepare them for initial acquisition.
Okay, thanks. Flight GNC1.
Go.
Wanted to give you an update on the IMU EVRs we've been looking into. We did hear back from the Situation Room that we saw a number of the 1553 SA words report the air conditions. 2 of them, bit 16 and 17, report gyro and accel errors. Those were the ones that we had previously seen in vibe testing, system vibe testing, and were expected. The other ones, which were words 21 through 24, are reporting gyro errors. We did not previously see that in the vibe testing, but the hardware CogE did report that that would be consistent with a dynamic environment, and we'd expect those to go away when the environment dies down.
Copy, GNC. Thank you. And between yourself and the GNC team in the back room, do we have the data from the vibe testing available to us and up so that folks can query it quickly if we need to do some comparisons between what happened in vibe and what's happening here?
I don't think we have it immediately handy, but we can get it. But probably takes lower priority than just watching the live telemetry that's about to start coming in.
That's affirmative, GNC.
Flight GDS.
Go.
Just wanted to confirm the alarms were deployed, and we confirmed that they were read by chill down. Also noting on the net that chill monitor prime is going to toggle between 5 different session IDs, and that's expected, one for each VCID for DSS 34.
Copy, GDS. Thank you.
Flight phase.
Go phase.
I had one follow-up for GNC when it's the time.
Can we hold phase?
Yes.
Should be separating any time now.
Europa Clipper, separation confirmed.
There we go.
Woo! Good luck, Godspeed.
All stations via the video, we can see that Clipper has successfully separated. Please say goodbye to Clipper on its way to Europa.
Go Europa Clipper.
Indeed.
Okay, all stations, we are waiting for a sign of initial acquisition. Again, Telecom will confirm when we have carrier lock, and DDM will let us know when they see the first packet down.
This also means, with a successful deployment, that Falcon Heavy did another successful mission.
Right.
It's amazing just to have, what is that, 60 engines firing over the course of 2 days?
True, yeah.
33 Raptors, 27, or we're just talking first stages here. 33 Raptors and 27 Merlins. Unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if we're even gonna see solar panel deployment. Like, those solar panels are huge.
Yeah, it's going to be a little slower of a process because of that.
Yeah.
Awesome. But during all of that, we got some very generous support.
GNC?
Go.
Just wanted to comment from the video that we could see that the sun was on the neg-Y side of the spacecraft. There were very low visible separation rates, and the negative Z-axis was pointed at Earth, so this should be favorable for comp.
Copy, GNC. Thank you.
That's good. Low rates. That means Europa Clipper is not spinning out of control, which is good.
Flight phase.
Go phase.
Sorry, I missed the session IDs for our SA sessions from GDS. Can you or GDS repeat those for me?
We did not call them out on net yet, but there are 5 session IDs that it will cycle through, so just a note. GDS, could you note those session IDs in your cache report, and then folks can go there and take a look?
Will there be more communication?
A lot of people asking where the second stage will go. It'll just go pretty much like Europa Clipper into interplanetary space.
Go.
Did we get confirmation that the alarm file was deployed?
That's affirmative.
Do we have the time at which that deployment was complete?
GDS, do you have a specific time for when that alarm file deployment was complete?
17:05:06.
Systems, you copy that time?
Copy, thank you.
Anyway, back to that support. Boomer Tech's Hobbies saying theoretically a Starship had used 3 booster setup like this one could have put a full fuel tanker into orbit in one launch. I probably not, but also SpaceX is never going to do that. Falcon Heavy was enough of a headache for them. They don't want to repeat that headache. Llama with a super chat saying, any thoughts on types of lights they use to get these great videos? Let's go NSF, SpaceX, and Europa Clipper. Yeah, that's actually an interesting question, how they ignite the stage in the dark. I don't know. Sawyer, Alex, do either of you have any idea what kind of lights they use?
I have no idea. Oh, look at that.
That's a cool
That's
shot.
lighting from the sun, that's for sure.
Flight, this is... Go, Telecom. Flight, this is Cal. We're seeing the signal on the open loop receiver. Copy, Telecom.
Look at that. Acquisition of signal.
Flight, I got data on SSC. Copy, Telecom. Flight, this is Telecom.
It's calling home.
Like 12 kilosymbols per second, as expected. Copy, Telecom. I see that. We're in lock. Flight, this is Telecom. We're in lock. Copy, Telecom.
Flight systems.
Go, systems.
We have telemetry. We received good samples, and our displays are lighting up.
Copy, systems. Initial hack is confirmed.
We love the excitement.
Yeah.
Flight prop.
Go, prop.
We are vented and primed.
Thank you, prop.
Good thrusters then.
Yeah.
Good
Flight,
propulsion.
this is Nav. Go, Nav. We see Doppler data. Copy, Nav.
Break.
Coming online.
Flight systems.
Go.
We're reporting status that both branches failed to vent. Can please confirm if venting occurred successfully?
I was about to do that. The pressures are good, but we are seeing the veiled venting flag. We're taking a look right now.
Copy, prop. Thank you.
Flight GNC.
Go, GNC.
We do see, there's the telemetry just came in too. We do see that we are already in the mode GNC 3RS tracks on point, and with the Z-axis rate is consistent with the Z-axis roll.
Copy, thank you, GNC.
Flight FP.
Go, FP.
So the particular condition about both branch failing venting does not trigger a monitor, and we have no indication anything tripped, so it just moved on to priming.
Copy.
Can hear you, Sammy. Copy.
Activity flight. Question for you. Is it possible that we
Can you hear me?
unsuccessful venting, successful priming, and then we end up in this GNC condition? What is the branch of that we're following here?
Yes, the branch through the launch behavior is that if both branches fail venting, the behavior moves on to and attempts priming. So if that is successful, we could get into tracks on point like we're seeing here. Depending on the cause of the both branches failing venting, which we'll look for prop to confirm more details on.
Copy, activity. Activity, as you see signs of the launch behavior continuing, please call it out.
Yes, if we're flight this activity.
Go ahead.
Being in our tracks on point at this point, we are waiting the hour thermal roll, so we should all be looking for signs of being in the thermal roll right now.
Copy, activity.
Yeah, flight GNC, just to confirm it again, we are in the thermal roll right now. And so GNC sees that we have already successfully found the sun, done a slew to sun point, and initiated the Z-axis roll. So good indication that GNC is using the engine successfully.
Copy, GNC. Do you have an estimate on the start time of that thermal roll?
We're working that right now. I'll get that back to you.
Thank you. And activity, when you have the telemetry in step 2-8 or can confirm the telemetry in step 2-8, please let me know.
Flight CE.
Go ahead, CE.
Is power seeing anything in the thermal roll? Do we see any change?
Go ahead, power.
Stand by.
All right.
It sounds like the spacecraft at least orienting itself towards the sun, knowing where it is, and then doing rolling to even
Flight
out the thermal
activity.
protection.
Go activity.
Been working so many years to get to this point. There's still a lot of work to do. Several hours from now, they will begin to cut the thermal knives that will slice open the holding mechanism that allows that solar array to expand, and then that'll bring them power to the spacecraft that'll get them on their way.
Yeah, 30 meters solar. That's just impressive from that aspect. And Daryl, again, a great launch today, great separation. I say to Jenny on the host desk, awesome. Hope you're happy. Hope the JPL's team happy. We at LSP are so proud to provide you with SpaceX, a great launch today. Thanks for being with us. And Daryl, as usual, thanks for having me on board for this launch. This was an exciting one.
Well, we appreciate having you, Mick. Thank you for your expertise and your knowledge and insight in this mission. It is always helpful to help us understand what's going on. So thank you very much, and that'll wrap it up for us. So we'll send it now back to.
All right. Well, the last person to thank today is Riku, who said, "Godspeed, Clipper, Godspeed." Indeed. At least it sounds like initial checkouts are going seemingly mostly well. Maybe an issue here they're working, but let's cross our fingers that those all get resolved. But with that, I have a bunch of people to thank, starting with Mr. Alejandro. Alex, thank you for bringing your insights on today's mission and explaining everything that's going on.
It's always a pleasure, and I cannot be more happy to see Europa Clipper finally in space, heading off to Jupiter. Man, I cannot wait until we see the results of that, but definitely lots more exciting stuff going on. It's been quite a mind-blowing couple of days, so
yeah,
hopefully we get a lot more of that soon.
No kidding. Then additionally, we had Sawyer in the field. Sawyer, thank you very much for going out there and bringing us those views.
My absolute pleasure. I love this, especially for these really big science missions. And to modify a lyric from the Grateful Dead, what a long, strange trip it will be.
Then we also had Julia out in the field, and then Kevin, Michael Reed, and Jay in the background operating today's stream. I've been your host, Trevor Sesnick. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone.
And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up.
Payload down to nominal.
Flighting downside FD off. FD off. It's orange! 145! Oh my god! Oh my god! Decollage! What is it? Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You read? Sure. We don't need any more of these.